So our next in-ring one is number 21, Sharp Decision, an 8-year-old Thoroughbred gelding by Sharp Humor out of Reigning Princess, bred by John Weld, owned by Susan Day, and ridden by Elisa Wallace from Jasper, Georgia.
So here is Sharpie at Poplar Place Horse Trials, and we are competing in the open prelim division. And now you're going to see throughout the test, I kind of interchange between posting and sitting trot as you are allowed in this test. But in the beginning, I'm going to start off in posting so I can keep his back nice and relaxed. So we come down the center line, really try and get those points for being nice and straight. And then as I approach C, I'm going to start to do shoulder 4, so then I can prepare for the turn. And Sharpie has become a pretty dependable guy. He puts in a nice solid test, so he's pretty fun in the dressage ring. And now I'm going to turn across the center line and halt over X, which we were almost perfectly square. And then you have to proceed directly into the trot, which this is a little bit of difficult maneuver for this test because that halt kind of breaks up the rhythm. And then we go back to a 10-meter circle. Again, trying to be very accurate. And now I'm going to be sitting because I'm going to turn down the center line to do a leg yield to H. And he's pretty good this way. This is his stronger way. Put in a very consistent leg yield. And now I'm going to half halt him in the corner so I can press him now for the lengthened trot. This is his weakness, but he's really starting to develop it a lot better. And he's getting stronger and stronger. Now again, I'm going down the center line for my leg yield right. Now this is his harder way. He likes to get a little crooked, so it's really important that I use my left leg to my right rein to try to keep him straight. Put in a fairly good leg yield there. And now I am in my stretchy trot, so I'm posting. I do believe it's required to post for this movement. He could have had a little bit more consistent stretch, but all in all it didn't change rhythm. And then down transition to the walk, which he did a really good job of stepping through. He has a really good walk. So I always try to encourage the stepping over from the hind leg over the front foot. You really want to see the swing through the body. Sometimes he gets a little distracted and wants to look around, so I have to kind of keep his attention. And now putting him back into a medium or working walk. So we are going to trot at A. And then we do a canter transition at K. And again, his rideability makes it to be where I can be very accurate. And now we're supposed to do a medium canter on the 20-meter circle, but he started to get a little fresh. So he was just a little tight in his back, I started laughing. And then we come back to a working canter at E, which he responds pretty well to. Half 10-meter circle. Want to make sure I don't cross the center line, being very accurate on my circles. And now a down transition at K, so I want to try to do it right as my leg hits the marker. I was pretty proud of him here because the gnats were really bad and they started to bother him, but he still paid attention to my aids. And then the medium canter to the left was much better. I could have probably shown a little bit more of a difference, but there's always that balance between pushing for the gates and then making sure you don't go past it and making your horse tense. And now a half 10-meter circle back to the track. We're almost done with the test now. We're going to trot at F, getting him nice and straight. And now I'm going to half halt to prepare for down the center line. And our halt is at G, so I'm going to start to prepare him by half halting a bunch and then asking for the halt. Put in a pretty square halt, and it was a really nice test. He ended up leading the division, which I was very proud of him for, with his best score to date of a 27.4. Now on to cross country, and here you can see the first fence. Now I had in mind to not really go for the time, so I'm just trying to make sure I get him settled into a rhythm, and also being mindful the ground was a little firm, so I wanted to be pretty careful of where I chose for him to run. So coming to the second fence, again the biggest thing with Sharpie in the beginning, and actually through the whole course, is just keeping him in balance. And he's doing a really good job of listening. He's really starting to figure out his job for cross country. And then up the hill, I allow him to kind of coast a little bit. Coming to a big stone fence, and he jumped that really nicely out of rhythm. And again, kind of the biggest thing I'm having to do is manage his speed. I never really have to ask him to go forward. He's always very willing to. But I was really making him work on his balance coming down the hill. And then we go back up the hill to a log that's kind of on a pimple. He jumped that really well. And now heading around the corner to a tricaner fence. So a tricaner, which is a ditch underneath it. So these type of fences, you just want to allow them to gallop, and he jumped it right out of stride. It was very good. And then I'm going to let him coast up the hill. Coming to the next combination, we had an option of, you could see we could jump the Irish bank on the left, but I chose to do the option, which this walked in a 4 stride. That was a bit off on the longer distance, and I made the mistake of just kind of sitting there, so we got there on the half stride, but he did a good job to get out of it. And we jumped just a plain table. Again, he was good on his balance.
Whoa.
Coming to another skinnier fence down the hill, heading up for the coffin. And he's such a brave horse. You know, he can jump a ditch, and I just click to him, and then coming to the chevron, keeping my hands nice and wide, and he locks right on. And again, I just kind of let him cruise here. The footing felt pretty good. And to that table, kind of caught a little bit of the flyer jump. But now I'm going to be setting him up. We have a harder turn coming to this more narrow brush. And coming through this with 6 strides to the barrel. And here I cut some distance off, take a shorter line to this coop. And he's very rideable and very keen, so it makes it pretty easy to ride for a little bit tighter lines. And then jumping into the water. I was really proud of him here because I caught a little bit of the flyer to that corner, but he held the line and jumped it pretty well. And then coming up the hill to this brush, you want to hold your shoulders on the backside because the ground kind of disappeared. And now coming to this crossrail oxer, I caught the flyer again, which I should have held to help him through this turn, but again, he's such a good boy. He listened pretty well.
Steady, steady.
Now heading up the hill, making sure I had balance from behind and power. And he powers right up over that 4 stride.
Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
And now heading to an overhang. I didn't quite get the distance I wanted, but again, it's good experience for him to jump the overhang fences, but I would have liked to have had a better distance to that. So another hanging log. I'm going to make sure his balance is up over his hind end. And now coming to the water. I really just try to stay back and positive. I don't really need to push him. I just give him a little click and he knows to drop in. And then we had to make a tight turn to the left to another brush into the water. This is really good experience for the horses to really go in and out of the water. And now to an up bank where I really want to make sure I have him collected. And he did that beautifully. Now we head to the last fence, and I was just down a couple of seconds on the clock, but I was really happy with his performance and how he coped with the course, and I really felt he got a really good education from it.
Whoa.
And we were still in first place, so that was really good.
Whoa. What a rock star!
Now heading into show jump, I had a rail in hand heading into the show jump to maintain the lead. But unfortunately, we had 3 jumps down, which actually for him at this level, he normally has 1. But, you know, sometimes that happens. The other thing, too, is that for Sharpie, this was rather a plain show jump course. So there really wasn't much filler. And he's such a brave horse. Sometimes he gets a little lackadaisical about things. But again, as I enter, they like to send us in the ring a little early while the other horse is finishing up. So tried to start my horse off, get the canter that I want. And again, with Sharpie, it's all about the balance with his hind leg. I have to say, I felt a little off on this day with him. But coming to the first fence, I feel like I found the good spot. And he jumped it great. And I thought, yeah, we got this. He feels really good. So I'm coming to the vertical. I see a really good distance. And he just clipped it with the hind leg. And I thought, oh, okay, that's our one rail. Now we have the rest of the course to do. And then coming to the next fence was this oxer, and he caught that, and I thought, darn it. And I felt like I was pressing my body just a smidge ahead of him. So in coming to this next fence, I did a little bit of the same thing. I was a little ahead of him, and I should have waited. He's a very, very sensitive horse to where you have to lean back almost really like too far, it feels like, when you're jumping. So finally, kind of got my act together, and we jumped in and out well. And coming to this next line, and I'm really trying to hold my body and not get into the temptation of dropping my shoulder. And he was jumping much better there. So it was just really unfortunate because it was those 3 rails in a row, and then we kind of got our act together. And now we come to the in and out, jumps that beautifully. And now I decided to add down this line because, again, he jumps better from the deeper distance than he does the long distance. He can tend to get flat and a little worried. So coming to the last line, I'm really trying to make sure I have his balance. He jumps the last one well, and again, it was a bit disappointing that I let him down, but he tried really hard for me over the weekend.